Usually I don't speak in front of a stender because I don't like a mechitza in between me and my audience. We're all equal, we're all trying to grow, but this is short and it's making me feel tall. So we're cool. So first I want to give a big yashkar to Chazaq, a tremendous organization that's doing a lot for Klal Yisrael. We're privileged to have Chazaq. Don't take it for granted. Somebody has to create a Chazaq, and maybe someone over here one day will create their own version of a Chazaq or something else that can change Klal Yisrael. But it's people who say we want to change the world, and they create an organization from nothing. And once we mention them, we're going to mention also Torah Anytime, because Torah Anytime is also just a few nice people from Queens who say, and Cherry Hill, and they say, let's create an organization. And lo and behold, how many people here have watched a video on Torah Anytime this year? Yeah? At least half, more than half, right? So, I want to empower you to do that. And also Hidabrut, which is now starting off in the United States. I mean, there was always a radio program, but they're doing videos, and Eretz Yisrael, they're very big. So we're lucky. We're living in a generation where people are doing, right? Now, and I guess we're also sponsored by Shabbat.com, because that's my organization. And just to let you know, in case you are watching this on time, we came out with an app to connect all the Jewish people for Shabbos. And also there's dating on the app. And because this is a dating talk, I'm happy to let you know that we are averaging 6 shidduchim a month from the site. Did you know that? You didn't know? Maybe not even dating yet. You dating? Okay, not yet. One day. Well, when you do 6 shidduchim a month, we just found out about another one yesterday. And it's free, so in case you do have a smartphone, you should download it. And I think there's a big raffle also. If you download it in the near future, you could win a vacation to Mexico, which somebody very nicely donated. Anyhow, so we're going to speak about marriage and dating, or dating and marriage. That's the correct order. And it's a tough subject only because, number one, it's been spoken about a lot. You can go to a farm store and you can read books all about dating. Some are Jewish, some are not Jewish. I recommend the Jewish ones because the dating world in the non-Jewish world is very, very different than in the Jewish world. It's like a different animal completely. We just started a video online, sort of a TV program called Soon by You. And the first episode came out today. Oh, you saw it already? Yes. It was nice? Yeah, she likes it. It just came out today. Soon by You. Because they always say if your sister gets engaged, or your brother, they say, oh, soon by you. And like, oh, just get me somebody. Stop with the brachas, just get me someone. So, danger number one is, it's a topic that's been spoken about a lot. How many people here have been to at least one lecture where the lecture was just about dating or marriage? Really? You guys haven't? Oh, okay, so I can say anything, right? Everything is new. That's great. The second danger, and to me this is a greater danger, is the fact that a lot of the advice that's given is what I would consider to be homespun advice. Homespun advice simply means you could take any self-help book, open it up, give some homespun simple advice. Okay, be nice, be polite, whatever that is, and then you could attach it to some words in the Torah, and there you go. You've created an instant lecture, and really it's just homespun advice. There's nothing wrong with practical homespun advice, but I'm not quite sure that is considered a Torah lecture. However, we will be giving some homespun advice here today. So here is my background. I am married to Be'ez Hashem. It will be, this month, it will be 28 years. 28 years is the gematria, anyone? Koach. Koach. So they say from strength to strength, Michael al Chayil. So from strength to strength. Now, being married 28 years is what we call in Yiddish a kunz. It's not simple to be married 28 years. Why do I say that? Well, more than half the people in the world get divorced. And therefore, people who thought that they were going to be happy the rest of their lives end up divorced. And divorce is a very tough thing. If you've been divorced, if anyone here watching has been through a divorce, they would tell you, you don't want to do that if you don't have to. You really want to put yourself in a position where the marriage is going to last. And yet, everyone knows that, and yet, half of them do end up getting divorced. So we're doing something wrong if the one thing we got to get right, the one decision, which means so much, 1 out of every 2 people are messing up. Now the truth is, in the frum community, the divorce rate is lower. It used to be much lower. As a matter of fact, I don't think I'm making up this number. It's the number that I heard in my youth. So in my youth, this is going back, I don't know, too many years. In my youth, they used to say the divorce rate was 3% in the frum community. Then it went up to 5, then 7, then to 9. Unfortunately, it is getting higher, but it is better than in the secular world. And I'm going to explain to you why that is. But if half the people get divorced, that means that what we want out of life, we're not getting. Now, the numbers are worse than I'm telling you. Number one, whenever they do that study and they find out half the people are divorced, after that study, probably some more people got divorced, right? Whenever that study was, a year later, you get more divorce. So there's probably more than 50%. In addition, being faithful in one's marriage is, in the secular world, is very uncommon. It's uncommon to be a faithful husband, a faithful wife. It's very uncommon. The numbers are very, very high for those who admit to having been unfaithful in their marriage, as high as 75% among men. That means 3 out of every 4 men in the secular world have been unfaithful. And women, the number is 55%. That means at least 1 out of 2 people who are still married are not even faithfully married. So now, you see, to be in a good marriage is hard. Half the people are getting divorced. Out of the half that stay married, 75% of men and 50% of women admit to being unfaithful. And then the numbers, pardon me, please forgive me, it's even worse than that. Because they did a study, they asked the following question. Out of all those people who are married and have stayed married and admit to not having an affair, to say with pride that they are faithful in their marriage, out of that demographic, still married, still faithful, they asked the following question. Yes, you're married. Yes, you're faithful. But if you had a chance to do it all over, would you marry this person or would you move on? And guess what the numbers were? Again, secular world, the numbers were 82% of all men, 81% of all women, almost identical numbers, say that yes, they're married, yes, they're faithful, but if we had the chance, if we can go back in time, we would have looked elsewhere. Wow. Is that a nightmare? It's a nightmare. Either there's divorce, or there's unfaithfulness, or there's discontent. So you've got 3 or 4 or 5 out of 100 marriages that are genuinely loving and supporting. It's a very scary world out there. So how do we make sure that we end up in a good marriage, in a marriage that lasts, in a marriage where the husband and wife are faithful to each other, in a marriage where if the question is asked, if you had to do it all over, that you would be able to say gladly 100% yes. How do we do that? If I can give you that tonight, is that a good tool? Was that worth the trip? Yeah? Okay, I don't know if I can. But I'm going to try. I'll give you a few tools. First off, the very fact that you sitting here tonight are Torah observant Jewish people gives you a tremendous advantage. And I'm going to explain to you a few advantages that you have being Torah observant that you may not have realized until now. Advantage number one. We learned something called musar. Musar, as we call it in English. In Ashkenazi. Musar. What's musar? What does that mean? What? No, that's to give someone musar. You're right. If I give you musar, then I'm giving you a rebuke. But when we learn musar, what we're learning is how to perfect our midot. How to perfect our character. To us, sitting here in the room, it is just as important, or maybe far more important, to be humble, to be grateful, to be honest, as it is to be smart and to make a lot of money. Right? How many people here, by a raise of hands, want their spouse, husband or wife, to be a humble person? Raise your hand if humbleness... No, you don't care about humbleness? Yeah? Okay. Okay, now everyone, you don't see this because you're looking at me over here, but I want to tell you, on that side, right, you want someone who's humble? You don't want someone who's walking around with a swagger, boasting about what he or she is all about, right? You want humbleness. You want gratitude. You want empathy. You want somebody who has rizut, to wake up in the morning, to daven, to learn. That's called midot. Now, in the Jewish world, midot is a big-time cause. As a matter of fact, every parsha that we learn, when we learn Torah, every parsha that we learn, what are we really learning? We're learning midot. We're learning midot. Think about it. Here we've got Noah. Noah didn't believe in Hashem, okay? Right? He went and he planted wine afterwards. He got drunk. Don't get drunk. Avraham Avinu. He's getting older. He's sitting outside the tent, right? But achnas is archim. Midot. Emar ma'at ma'aseh harbeh. Midot. He says, I'm going to give you pa'as lechem, ma'at lechem, a little bit of water. V'achar tavaru. And instead, he's emar ma'at ma'aseh harbeh. Midot. She laughed. She didn't believe. Midot. Everything is midot. Now, in the non-Jewish world, and I don't know if you know what I do for a living. I have a day job. Shabbat.com is my fun. I like to connect people for Shabbat. But my day job is I am the National Educational Director for colleges in North America. That's my day job. So I bounce around from college to college. Last night I was in Philadelphia. I was in Vegas, and then Penn, and then Rutgers. I go all over the country. And I meet students who grew up secular. And when I speak to them about midot, they don't know what I'm talking about. When you date, one of the questions you ask about the guy or the girl, one of the questions that we ask in the religious community is he growing? Is she growing? Right? You ever hear that question? Is he a growing person? And when I speak to someone secular and I say growing, they're like this? What kind of growing? You see, we don't even explain ourselves. Like, we've got our own lingo, our own terminology. Growing! What does growing mean? If I ask you, what does growing mean? Tell me what it means. Spiritually. Connection to God. Maturity. Right? Growing. So when you focus on midot, you have a much better chance of staying married. You want to stay married? Well, why do people not stay married? People don't stay married because they have poor midot. Not always, of course. But sometimes they're too haughty to say, I'm sorry, you're right, I'm wrong. They are too lazy to get up and make the kind of living they're supposed to make. You don't see a person getting up for shacharit. So, you look down, like, what's going on? What's with you? You see your spouse is not being honest in business. You look down, that's not okay. Midot, when we mess up, we fix it with midot. Pettiness. You know what pettiness means? Pettiness means, this bothers me. This bothers me. You ever see two thugs? Like two thugs, two real low people, and they pass each other in the street, and by accident they bump shoulders like this. They bump shoulders, and one of them looks at the other one and says, what's up with that? What's up with that? You talking to me? You talking to me? Say that here. Come to my face. Say it right here. You come say it. Let's take it outside. Like, what just happened? They don't know each other. They bump. They brushed shoulders. You know what it is? They're not tough guys. They're tiny people. They're tiny because they're petty. Now, here's a really good rule to know. How great will you one day become? How great are you going to be at the end of your life? I can tell you right now how great you're going to be. I can tell you how big you're going to be. You will be as big as your pettiness. Your ceiling is what bothers you. So, if small things bother you, if small little things throw you off, if every time you spill a little something on your dress or on your pants, you get upset, you're not going to be a big person. You will be small all your life. Then, if you can outgrow that and you become bigger, then maybe medium things bother you. Whatever bothers you, somebody insulted me, someone looked at me the wrong way. Well, at that point, you're not going to grow anymore. Great people are able to take insult and injury and continue to grow because it doesn't mean anything. There's a very famous story with Avraham ben Avraham. Avraham ben Avraham was a man who lived at the times of the Vilna Gaon, and he converted to Judaism, and he called himself Avraham ben Avraham, and he came from a very, very important family. I visited the house that he grew up in Poland. It's bigger than the White House. His last name was Potocki, and he saw an anti-Semitic riot in the street where he lived. There was a street that Jews were not allowed to walk. And there was a Jewish person who came to town. He did not know about this street, so he walked with his daughter on the street. And when the Polish people saw him, they beat him and his daughter. And Potocki saw what was going on, and he went and he stopped and he said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I think maybe they were supposed to take their hats off. "What are you doing? You're beating up a little girl, beating up a father?" Well, the church was upset at him for breaking up the fight. They were upset. Like, what do you mean? They deserve to be beaten. And so, Avram ben Avram decided, I can't stay Christian. I need to be Jewish. And he ended up moving away, went into hiding, became a frum Jew. They ended up searching for him. They found him. They arrested him. They brought him back. And they decided they're going to burn him at the stake if he doesn't renounce his Judaism. And the person who was bringing him to the area that he was going to be burnt, this executioner, brings him, and as he's walking towards the fire, he says, "You probably are thinking to yourself," says the executioner to Avram ben Avram, "you probably think that, oh, now you have the upper hand. You're going to burn me. But in the next world, I'm going to be on top of you because I have the true faith." That's probably what you're thinking. And Avram ben Avram says, "No, that's not what I'm thinking. You see, in the next world, when life is so clear, I'm not even going to be thinking about you. You're going to be nothing. This hurt, the fact that you're burning me, that's nothing." It's like two little kids building a little building out of blocks, and one kid knocks down the building of blocks. Does the other kid say, "Well, when I grow up, I'm going to destroy you"? No, when you grow up, you don't care the fact that there were kids that knocked down the blocks, because you're not petty. You're a grown person. Now, Midot teaches you not to be petty. If you're going to be in a marriage and you're petty, then every time your spouse forgets to pick up the milk that you asked them to pick up, every time they didn't pay a bill that they're supposed to pay, every time they got a parking ticket or they broke a dish, you get upset because you're a small person. So these things throw you off. And if you're a small person, it's really hard to stay married. Because you know what? Two people are two people. And when they're living in the same house for 70, 80 years, you get each other angry. So what you do is you grow through Midot. So by being a Torah Jew and learning about Midot, you right away you're going to be in a better marriage. Because Midot are important. Does that make sense? So that's one thing we have. Another thing is lashon hara. Now, how many people here have ever studied the laws of lashon hara? Raise your hand if you've ever studied the laws. Okay? Like everyone. Everyone studied the laws. Now, when I was a rabbi in Hollywood, when I used to be a rabbi in Los Angeles, and I gave lectures to famous people. Hollywood people, writers, producers. And one day I'm speaking to a lot of famous people at this gathering, and I'm speaking about the laws of lashon hara. And there was a very famous actress, I'm not going to mention her name right now, there was a very famous actress who was not Jewish, but her Jewish boyfriend brought her to my class. And she's listening to me speak about how we are not allowed to talk badly about another person. And she looks at me, she says, do you know where you're speaking? Do you realize this is Hollywood? You think in Hollywood you cannot speak bad? This is Hollywood, that's all we speak about. I said, you can't. I said, you can't. I said, would you like if your friend spoke about you? She goes, no, but they do. I said, but you don't like it? So what is hurtful to you, don't do to them. So she was very bothered by that. Like, how do you live lives and not talk badly about people? So then I looked her in the eye and I said, well, I got a question for you. Do you think that you're even allowed to listen to someone else say something bad about someone? Is it okay to even listen to gossip? So she looks at me and she says, Rabbi, if you tell me I can't even listen to gossip, I'm out of here. I say, bye-bye. Goodbye. You know, you want to be out of here, you're out of here. But yes. She says, why can't I listen? I said, can I ask you something? If somebody is bad-mouthing you to your best friend, they're saying what a jerk you are, what a horrible person you are, to your best friend, what would you expect your best friend to do? Defend you, right? Or at the very least, if they can't defend you, then at least leave the room. La 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 la, right? Not listening. Lashon hara, I don't want to hear. So even listening enables the one who's speaking to continue speaking. So imagine a marriage which is struggling, and they don't know there is a law called lashon hara. What's going to happen? What's going to happen in that marriage? They don't know there's a law called lashon hara. So what are they going to do? He's going to go bowling with his friends, say, oh my goodness, this witch that I married, she is just, I should have listened to you guys. You guys said, stay a bachelor. I should have stayed a bachelor. And he's going on and on. And you know what they do? You know what they do? They egg him on. They encourage him. Yeah, drop her, dump her. What do you need her? What do you need her? You're isolated with this person, and she's squashing you. She's stifling you. Meanwhile, what's she doing? Right? Oh, this guy, he's not a man, he's a boy, he's a kid, he doesn't know how to make a living, and they're each speaking about each other to everyone but each other. So he's speaking about her, she's speaking about him, the hatred grows and the hatred grows, and eventually one day the dishes fly and the divorce papers are served. Nachon? But if you have the laws of lashon hara, what happens? I have an issue with my wife, she has an issue with me, who does she have to speak to about it? Me? Because she can't go. Yeah, there are times you need to speak to a best friend to get their advice. There could be heterim, but in general, idle gossip is horrible. In general, you got a problem with your husband or your wife, you speak to them. Say, honey, we need to sit down, we need to talk. Things are not going the way I thought they would. And then it turns out that it was a miscommunication. And he didn't mean it, and she didn't mean it. And the kiss and make up. And the marriage is saved. And you know what that is? That's the laws of lashon hara, saving a marriage. You understand that by having these laws of lashon hara, by having laws of Midot, by having laws of Shabbat, where you've got to close your phone, and you can't be sitting at the computer. You got to look each other in the eye and say, how was your week? Not, how was your week, and then back to the phone. But how was your week? And you listen. It grows, it grows, it grows. It's not, the secular world likes to bash orthodoxy. Did you know that? You never heard about it, I know. The secular, they're like, oh, religious, religious. And then when somebody says, oh, the religious, they have a much lower divorce rate. And you know what their response will be? Oh, because there's a stigma to getting divorced. That's why there's lower divorce rate. Well, it's not 100% not true. Obviously, marriage is very, very important. Right? That's the optimal state within Judaism. But that's not why the difference is so dramatic between the secular world. The difference is because the mitzvot are built to keep marriages together. The fact that the woman covers her hair and she only removes that covering for her husband means that she's not trying to attract every guy that she walks by. The fact that there are halachot called shomer negiah. Do you think the laws of shomer negiah save marriages? I want to tell you something. My job is to be on campuses. I go from campus to campus. I develop awesome relationships with students. Sometimes students cry to me. Sometimes they tell me what they're going through in life, and I have good ears and a wide shoulder, and I'm able to listen. And then you know what happens in the secular world when someone's feeling better? You know what they do? They hug. And you know what my students do? They don't hug. They listen, and I nod, and they know my heart is with them. And they are not uncomfortable, and they know there's no agenda. I had a young student many years ago named Nina, and she came running to our house, crying. And we opened the door, and I see she needs a hug. She needs a hug. So my wife, very smart lady, knows how to intercept hugs. So she's my hug interceptor. So she runs in front of me and gives Nina a hug. And Nina cries on my wife's shoulders. And then Nina says, my best friend was playing basketball and had a brain aneurysm on the court and dropped dead. That's a horrible thing to happen. That's shocking. That's hug-worthy, right? But not to me. You know why? Because by the time we finished speaking, and we spoke for over an hour, and I calmed her down, and so did my wife, she looks at me and she says, Rabbi, I want to tell you something. I am so happy you did not hug me. Because yes, maybe at that moment, there was a hug to be had. But I would have felt weird the rest of our conversation, and the rest of the conversation would have ended very quickly. The fact that I know that there is the separation, the fact that my wife knows that I can go onto a college campus and speak to men and women and I don't touch, that's the only reason that a wife can trust a husband in the business world, not just college, but a doctor who works the night shift, like my father. Well, guess who else works the night shift? A hospital full of nurses. If you don't have shomer negiah, what? In the business world. People go on a business lunch. Shomer negiah saves marriages. People look at it like, oh, that's like the extra from extra credit way of going. No. Men in particular are extremely sensitive to touch. Did you know that? Women don't realize this, but they did an incredible study. Gila Mandelson speaks about in her book. She speaks about a a lady a woman who was a waitress, and she was getting a huge tips from the patrons of the restaurant. And finally she revealed her secret. You know what her secret was? When she came to deliver the check, she would put her hand, if it was a guy there, she'd put her hand on the guy, and I think even the women, she'd put her hand, and I guess she was a pretty woman, she'd put her hand, and the check would become much greater. So, what is it? The guy's sitting there with his wife. The power of touch, it's all it takes. They even asked, they did this in UCLA, they asked the guys, women, this is going to gross you out. I'm just warning you. But if the guys are honest, you know, they even asked, what would happen if you were in a store and the lady behind the counter was very, very beautiful, and then as she was giving you change, her hand touched your hand. Do you feel pleasure in that? Beautiful woman. I know, you think like, that, really? Really? Yeah, really. That's sorry. That's how God made man. That's how we're hardwired. Now you're saying they do it on purpose. What's the point? There's no good, there's no evil, but the point is, you want fidelity in your marriage. You want your marriage to last. The laws of the Torah keep marriages together better than anything else. As a matter of fact, if I want to deliver this talk and give it a different title, I would title it, How Being a Torah Observant Jew Will Save Your Marriage. Nachon? Tzniut. Tzniut. The fact that men have to guard their eyes. So do women, by the way. The fact that we have to watch what we look at means that we're not numb to the human body. This is a big issue. You know why? Because it used to be that before the internet, it used to be if a person wanted to look at something not sneistic, so they'd sneak off to a 7-Eleven or something, and they'd go to the magazines in the back of the rack, and they'd flip it open, and there would be pictures, and that was the not sneeze that was seen. And then there used to be something, a swimsuit edition, right? That used to turn the American world on. Today, do you think a swimsuit turns anyone on? Today, you can go online and see Kol Minei Aveiros HaNisurim. You can see anything and everything. So what happens if a guy is watching everything he wants to watch, and then his wife then tries to turn him on by taking off her dress? 10 minutes ago he just saw a lady he would rate a 10 do all sorts of actions, and now he's going to be turned on by his wife? What's going to happen to that marriage? Right? Intimacy is a huge part of marriage, isn't it? It's huge. So how is it supposed to work if intimacy is not sacred? If the very vision of a woman is so bland, it's so benign that it doesn't turn the guy on, or it doesn't turn the woman on. We need Torah to keep our marriages together. Baruch Hashem, we have it. I'll tell you something else. We have laws called the laws of family purity. And if you're not married yet, I'm not going into the details, but I want to explain to you one point, because it's so beautiful. It's a point that you could even tell a younger person, they'll understand it. Right? Here's the point. When couples go out, when they're dating, you know what dating looks like? You know what dating looks like, right? You go out, and you talk, and you schmooze, and you go to a restaurant, and you talk, and you talk, and you talk. And if you like the person, and you don't reject the person, and like, oh wow, he's cute, she's pretty, let's talk, we got chemistry, then you talk for many hours. You can have one of these long marathon dates. And then, finally, you say goodbye, good night, and when you come home, suddenly the phone rings. Who is it? The one you just went out with. Oh, I just want to make sure you got home okay. Yeah, I got home okay. I really enjoyed spending my time. Oh, I really enjoyed you. Yeah, what you said about next hour you're on the phone. You just spent 7 hours together. Now you got another hour. Okay, goodbye. Goodbye. You hang up first. You hang up first. Okay, another hour. You hang up. Goodbye. right? All this talk. It's so exciting to be in love. It's so wonderful to be dating. Isn't dating great? And then, you know what happens? Then marriage happens. Then marriage happens. And you know, when you get married, you know how much they do this incredible study, 2 different studies. The average couple speak. How long, how much time during the week, aggregated all together, if you add up all the time a married couple speaks to each other during the week, what do you got? What do you got? Anyone want to guess? Huh? So according to one study, if you add up all the time, it's 70 minutes, the whole week, right? So it's 10 minutes a day, right? Or another study, I heard from the Hillel rabbi at USC, he said the study he saw was 45 minutes. The whole week, if you add up, oh, who's taking time to soccer practice? Oh, did you pay the bill? Right? Little small talk, small chat. 45 minutes for the whole week. You were able to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And then, you know what happens? You know what happens? Your connection sort of dies. And you're not emotionally connecting anymore. So you know what you do? Because you want to still connect, you begin to rely on physicality. What emotions are not giving you, physicality is going to give you. So at night, all of a sudden, right before you go to bed, oh, I love you, oh, I love you. Oh, now you're talking to me. Now you do. You know, all day long you didn't say a word to me. Now, oh, I love you. You're so pretty, son. Right? If she'd have any guts, she'd say, hello, mister. Say a few words to me during the day, not just, you know, not just at night when you're ready to go to bed. So, physically, it's all about relying on physicality. And even that is unsatisfying. Because you never connect with the person. Imagine a husband and wife are they're fighting, they're struggling, they're not connecting, and she says to him, you know, honey, we got to talk. No husband wants to hear the "we got to talk" line. Like, oh no, the talk. Oh no, this is a torture session, and the basketball game is on in 5 minutes. And I really want to be there for the tip-off. So she says, you know, I feel like we're not connecting. We're not speaking to each other. We're just not connecting. And he listens and is like, oh, you know, the game. And after about 5 minutes, he goes to her. He gives her a big hug. Honey, you're so right. Let's work on this. Gives her a big hug and then goes to watch the game. And she's standing there like, did we just solve the issue? I don't know. He gave me a hug. No, of course he didn't solve anything. You know what just happened? He relied on physicality in order to create a connection. And you know what happens when you rely on physicality? Something very unfortunate. What happens is you get bored of the other person physically. You see, as nice eyes as your wife has, as nice abs as your husband has, as nice hair, ears. There's someone out there with nicer eyes, a nicer nose, a nicer smile, and an 8-pack instead of a 6-pack. There's someone out there who's got it. And if all you have is physicality, you've got nothing. So you know what happens? They're not attracted to each other physically. Emotionally, they're speaking 45 minutes a week. So one day, you know, I think the marriage is over. And the marriage dies a slow and painful death. You know what the Torah does? The Torah does something magical, amazing. The Torah says, there is a law that I'm going to give you called the law of family purity. When the woman is having her time of the month, the husband and wife may not be together. Can't be together. Now, when you're not together, something amazing happens, which is you're sitting there at the kitchen table and you can't resort to physical connection. So if you're not connecting physically and you're not connecting emotionally, then it's awkward. So you know what you begin to do? You begin to speak again. And you begin to rekindle the emotional connection, the interest that you had in the person, because you're not relying on physicality to do the trick. Now, remember, during that time of the month, they're not being physical, but they're still in the same bedroom. And what you can't have, you want. And you're connecting physically. And guess what happens? When the lady finally does the mikveh, it's like wedding night again. It's literally like getting married all over again. It saves marriages. The laws of family purity. That's why I'll tell you, I lived in LA. Even in communities where nobody is Shomer Shabbat, nothing but the laws of family purity, the laws of Midot, they kept. They kept it because it saves marriages. The laws of Shabbat save marriages. The laws of Yom Tov save marriages. And on and on and on and on. So, we want to date. We want our marriage to last. But the first thing you got to look for is somebody who comes with a whole arsenal of tools called Torah that they can bring to the marriage. You see, I can give you one tool and say, a guy who's honest is good. Or I could say a guy who makes a living. Or I could say a guy who's empathetic. Or I could say a person who's humble. I could point each thing out individually. But I'd rather tell you that if you marry a Ben Torah or a Bat Torah, somebody who wants the whole package, you're going to get the whole package. And that whole package doesn't mean that they're not going to slip and fall and mess up. We're all quite human, trust me. But at least there's an agreement in what the foundation of what's going to keep our marriage together. There's a longing for connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that keeps our marriage together. Think about this. The very fact that we have Zman Kriya Shema and Zman Tefillah means that the guy can't be a lazy good for nothing and sleep till 2 in the morning, till 2 in the afternoon. You know why? Because he's got to have Kriya Shema, he has to have Tefillah, and he has to go to a minyan. These are very clever ways of keeping things in check. You want the person to be generous, right? How many people here would marry somebody who's a miser? Right? Speaking to the women over here, you want to marry a miser? A miser, somebody they gave you $100, and then you say, you know what, I really need another 100 to pay the lady, and the husband says, what did you do with the first 100? Well, I went out to eat. Yeah, but going out to eat is only like, where'd you go? Could you imagine that conversation? That's like a horrific conversation. You don't want to marry a miser, you want to marry somebody who's generous. You know how you marry someone who's generous? Well, it's simple. The Torah has something called Meiser. And by giving Meiser, it forces you to be generous. It forces you to take the money that you earned with difficulty and giving it to tzedakah. Maaser. By giving maaser, it forces you. You want an attentive husband? So you know what you've got? You got Vigata Levincha, the mitzvah of a father learning with their children. All the things that women want in life, all the things that men need in life, you get when you marry a Ben Torah because it's built into the system. It's incredible. Forget about the self-help books. Forget about smart people giving homespun advice. Built into our system is speaking beautifully. Do you know if you hurt your spouse, if you say something hurtful, let's say, Chalila, a husband were to say to his wife, you know, you really gotten ugly, you've let yourself go. Do you know that by saying that, he got multiple averot that he's going to have to do teshuvah for on Yom Kippur? He got an avera of onat dvarim. He was over the ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Right? Multiple averot by saying, you know, you've let yourself go. Now, sometimes you have to say something to somebody, but how you say it changes everything. And the Torah dictates how you say it. Hakarat hatov. What does that mean, hakarat hatov? To express appreciation. The husband brings home a paycheck. The wife can work and bring home a paycheck for the husband. Let's say the husband brings home a paycheck in that family dynamic. Should the wife say, well, we each have our job. He's got to bring home the paycheck, and I got to do this and, make supper or whatever. So I don't have to say thank you, because he's doing what he's supposed to do. And no, of course not. Hakarat hatov. You got to say, thank you for bringing home the paycheck. I know you work hard. I know you may not see eye to eye with your boss. I know that sometimes you have deadlines, you have to work late and it's difficult. Thank you. Hakarat hatov. Before I make a bracha, before I eat, I make a bracha. Thank you. How many people here are careful to do birkat hamazon from a birkon, from a bencher? I mean, to make sure, or from an app, right? You're makbid, right? You're careful. Do you know it by heart? Yes. And you still do it. That's, how beautiful that is? That's so beautiful. You know what that does? That slows you down. It slows you down because you may know birkat hamazon, you may know benching, and you may be able to say it in 30 seconds. I probably can say it, probably slur the words, to be honest. But, right? So can you imagine the person ate, and they're running, they got to go to whatever, catch a game or go to work, whatever. So as they finish eating, and then they finish. What? It's like a tongue twister. But more than that, you're missing out on hakarat hatov. And if you learn hakarat hatov to Hashem, you're going to learn hakarat hatov to your spouse. If you feel close to Hashem, Hashem is the source of relationship, then hopefully you will work and feel close to your spouse. If you have to forgive people on Yom Kippur, then before Yom Kippur, if you speak to any married couple here in the room, you will know that there's a moment before Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur where the husband and wife look at each other, even though we've asked mechila from our friends and this, that, but the big one, the one where we have to turn to our husbands and wives and say, I want to ask you mechila. If I wasn't attentive to you, if I didn't fulfill your needs, if I didn't give you the attention that you need, I'm going to ask mechila if I didn't speak to you with enough respect. The fact that we have a Yom Kippur, and that moment that a husband and wife have to apologize to each other, that keeps a marriage together. There's a mitzvah, and the mitzvah is, before Yom Tov, the husband has to buy the wife a gift. Did you know that? Now you know. There's a mitzvah before Pesach, before Sukkot, before Shavuot, a gift. And I don't mean a gift certificate to Sushi Mitsuyan. I'm talking about a gift. I will tell you my gift for Pesach to my wife. I went to the store and I bought her beautiful diamond earrings. Not CZ, not cubic zirconia, real diamond. Was it a lot? Yes. Am I rich? No, I'm a rabbi. That should answer that. But when I gave it to my wife, when we sat around the table with the family by the Seder, and right before we made Kiddush, I look at my wife and I say, my dear wife, thank you for doing everything that you've done, for tolerating me, for putting up with me. This is a small little token. And to see her eyes when she read that note, and right there in front of the children, put on those earrings. It's a moment. It's Yiddishkeit. Yes, you could do it on Mother's Day, and you could do it on a birthday, you could do it on an anniversary, but this is not, this is Yom Tov. It's a little bit different. You know why? Because Yom Tov, a holiday, takes a lot of preparation. And when you prepare for Yom Tov, when you prepare for Sukkot, when you prepare for a Seder, when you prepare to have guests, and it's hard, and people may not appreciate how you have to take each potato and peel it, and each carrot, and each onion, and how you have to wash all the laundry and the tablecloths. This makes the husband stop and say, you know what, why am I buying my wife this gift? Because look what she does for me. Look what she does for the family. It's not just a gift, it is an appreciation gift, and I will never take you, my dear, for granted. That's a game changer. I'm going to end with the following thought. When you date, there are many kinds of people that you can date. Kishem shepartzufeim shonos, kach deoseim shonos. Just like their faces are different, so too their thoughts are different. Every person is different. No two people are alike. No two people are the same. And you don't have one bashert. You have many basherts. But each bashert will fulfill you in a different way. You could have an optimal bashert, Ezer or Kenegdo. You could have the Ezer, the one who will help you and encourage you rather than torture you to become good. But there are many different ways for you to be married and for you to grow. Think about it. It says, Koshe zivugon shel adam kekriyas yamsuf. It was as difficult to create matches, marriage matches, as it was to split the sea. How many splits, how many divisions were there when the sea split? One? Do they all march down the middle? Says the Medrash, there were 12. There were 12, which means that there were 12 ways to get to the other side. Ooh, kasha zivugan, because there could be 12 ways.
But weren't we supposed to travel as a nation, though?
Yes, we traveled as a nation, but Hashem wanted to show us, each one of us, that Shevet Ruvain and Shevet Shimon, Shevet Levi, each has their own tafkid. So they were able to see each other. The Medrash says that the walls were transparent. They were able to see each other through, but they each went in their own path. You could marry a tall person or a short person, a smart person or not so smart, someone who is meticulous, someone who is very chilled. There are many ways to get to the other side, but I'll tell you something else. Can you imagine, as the Jewish people were walking across Yam Suf, they looked up and they saw the water, and the water was high. It was like a building, and what's keeping it up? What's keeping it up? And they kept on looking up. When is it going to come crashing down? It's not going to stay like this. Every moment they were worried it's going to come crashing down. And it wasn't until they reached the other side and the water had crashed down. The Mitzrayim were no longer, they see how far they were able to come, that they sang Shira to Hashem. That also is marriage. It is true that finding someone to date, finding someone to agree to marry you, walking down the chuppah, that's the first step, and sometimes that first step takes a while, no question about it. But after marriage, you're always worried. There's always that thought in the back of your mind that I've got to keep this going because the waves, they can come crashing down. And this is not to paralyze us with fear, but this is to let us know that if you don't work on your marriage today and tomorrow and the next day, every hour of every day, unfortunately the waves can come crashing down. And the 50% who are served divorce papers, who do have to write a get, will testify that when the water comes crashing down, it can be painful and scarring and very difficult. So every moment we take the Torah that we have with its multitude of tools, from Midot to Mitzvot to Hanagot to Yomim Tovim to Shabbat, and we take all those wonderful tools and we say, Hashem, give me somebody who has those tools, who's devoted to Shabbat, Who's devoted to tefillah because they're going to get up on time? Who's devoted to emet because they'll be honest in their business? Who's devoted to shmirat lashon because then they're not going to speak about me behind my back? Who's devoted to the laws of family purity, taharat mishpacha? So we will remain in love with each other, emotionally and physically attached, attracted, and connected. My bracha to each and every one of you is, number one, if you're looking to find your shidduch, you should find one this year. Make sure that they are a ben Torah, not for religious reasons. That's also important. For practical reasons, practically speaking, you have a much better chance of staying married to a ben Torah. And number two, if you are already married, thank you so much. If you are married and you want to keep your marriage together, remember, number one, you've got to be inspired about your Judaism, because it will help your marriage. Never take your spouse for granted. Always know the waves are there, but Khalila, they can come crashing down. Appreciate each other. Keep halacha. And B'ezrat Hashem, you will see banim uvnei banim oskim Torah mitzvot l'chaim l'chaim.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I was wondering, Rob mentioned that recently we were having gradual incremental divorce rate in the Orthodox. So tuition prices have anything to do with this?
Tuition?
The tuition price.
There's no doubt that finances is either number one or number two on the reasons that people fight and eventually get divorced. And there's no question that tuition is absolutely huge. So I'm not going to blame the schools. That's not the way to go. I don't think any of the Rabbeim are breaking the bank. I know the schools have to do tremendous fundraising just to stay afloat. What we really have to do is we have to petition the government to stop using our tax money for public schools that our children are not enjoying, and to allow it to be used for the schools that we want to send our kids to. It's only right, it's only fair. That's what should happen. Anyways, thank you very much.